The planet Valora burned beneath a blood-red sky. Fire spread across the black stone mountains, and the air trembled with the sound of explosions. The Valari people, tall and pale, moved like silver shadows through the smoke. They were calm, efficient, and without emotion. They had fought wars for centuries and learned to survive by following logic, not feelings. But on this night, something strange fell from the heavens. A streak of blue fire cut through the clouds, crashing beyond the ruins of the southern ridge. The Valari soldiers saw it descend, a small pod glowing bright against the ash-filled air. Some thought it was a weapon. Others believed it was the last spark of a dying enemy ship. Yet curiosity pulled them closer. Commander Sareth, the leader of the defense patrol, arrived first. His armor was scratched, his expression unreadable. "Scan it," he ordered coldly. His soldiers moved forward with their scanning devices, beams of green light cutting through the smoke. "It is not Valari technology," one of them said. "The metal is unknown. The energy core is primitive yet stable." Before they could open it, a weak sound came from inside. A cry, small, fragile. Sareth froze. He had heard many sounds of war, screams, explosions, the collapse of cities, but never this. "Open it," he commanded softly. The pod hissed open. Inside lay a small human child, barely 6 years old. Her skin was covered in dirt, her hair tangled, her breathing weak. She looked up at them with wide, terrified eyes. The Valari had never seen such expression. Fear, hope, and innocence all in one glance. "What is it?" asked one soldier, stepping back. "It is human," whispered another. "From the old Alliance worlds. They were wiped out long ago." "Then it is a relic," said Sareth. "We have no use for relics." He turned away, preparing to move his unit. But a voice stopped him. "Commander, we cannot leave it here." It was Lyra, a Valari medic. Her armor was marked with the blue symbol of healers. Unlike others, her eyes were not cold. She knelt beside the child and scanned her vitals. "She is injured, weak. If we leave her, she will die within hours." "That is not our concern," said Sareth firmly. "Our orders are to secure the ridge, not collect strangers from the stars." Lyra looked at the child again. The girl's small hand reached out, trembling, and brushed against her armored glove. For a moment, Lyra felt something she could not explain. Warmth. "She is alive," Lyra whispered. "And she is innocent." The commander's voice hardened. Emotions cloud judgment. "You know this," but Lyra shook her head. "Logic built our world, Commander. But maybe logic cannot save what is dying inside it." Sareth stared at her in silence. The wind howled through the burning valley. Then he turned away. "Do what you will. But if this puts the mission at risk, it is your life." Lyra lifted the child carefully. The girl's head rested against her shoulder, small and warm, unlike anything in this cold world. She carried her through the tunnels beneath the city to an old medical bay that had survived the bombings. For days, Lyra treated her quietly, using limited supplies. She learned the child's name, Ella. The girl did not understand the Valari language, but she smiled often. She shared her food. Once, she offered Lyra a small drawing she had made with ashes on a scrap of metal, 2 figures holding hands. Lyra stared at it for a long time. Valari art was made by machines, precise and empty, but this was imperfect and beautiful. Outside, the war grew worse. The enemy, the Kraith Dominion, moved closer to the city. Their fleets filled the sky, black and cruel. Commander Sareth ordered all civilians to retreat deeper underground. Lyra received a message: "Evacuate. All units report to the core shelters immediately." She looked down at Ella, who slept peacefully beside the medbay's humming generator. Lyra knew what she should do: leave the child and obey. Logic demanded it. But her heart refused. She took the child in her arms and fled toward the lower caverns where the scanners would not reach. But the Dominion soldiers were already there. Their red eyes glowed in the dark as they surrounded her. "Valari healer," one of them said, his voice cold through the translator. "Give us the creature you hide." Lyra held Ella tighter. "She is only a child." The Dominion soldier raised his weapon. "A human? The ancient plague. You doom yourself by protecting it." Without hesitation, Lyra activated her shield. The air filled with light and heat as she fought fiercely, deflecting shots using her plasma blade to cut through the narrow path. But she was outnumbered. The blast that struck her armor sent her crashing to the ground. She crawled toward Ella, placing her trembling hand on the child's head. "Stay quiet," she whispered. "Stay alive." Her last breath was a whisper in the dark. Moments later, a brilliant blue light lit up the cavern walls. The Dominion soldiers looked up as something vast entered the atmosphere, a fleet of massive ships breaking through the clouds. The sky thundered with power. The sensors screamed warnings across the battlefield, and then a voice filled the airwaves, translated into every tongue. "This is the United Human Fleet," it said. "We have received the distress beacon of a lost child. To those who protected her, our gratitude. To those who threaten her, stand down or be erased." In that moment, the Valari realized something that shook their world. The humans were not extinct. They were back, and they were watching. Above the burning mountains, the human ships took position, glowing like stars reborn. And deep beneath the surface, the small human child opened her eyes. She whispered one word, soft and full of life: home. The sky of Valora changed the next morning. Dark clouds parted and the sun struggled to break through the smoke. The Valari people watched in silence as shadows passed over their world. Massive, slow-moving shadows that covered the cities, the mountains, and the burning plains. They looked up and saw the human fleet. Dozens of warships hovered in the upper atmosphere. Their hulls shone silver against the red light of Valora's sun. Energy fields pulsed beneath them, and every ship carried symbols that none of the Valari could read. The ships looked alive, breathing light, heat, and quiet power. Commander Sareth stood on the city's highest platform, staring at the sky. His soldiers waited behind him, weapons ready, unsure whether to fight or flee. "What do they want?" one soldier asked, his voice trembling. Sareth said nothing, but deep inside he already knew. The humans had come for the child. Far below, in the hidden caverns, the small girl named Ella woke to the sound of thunder. Lyra was gone, but her body rested beside the medbay. The girl did not understand death, but she felt it. She placed her hand on Lyra's armor and whispered something only she could understand. Then the walls shook. Dust fell from the ceiling as a beam of blue light scanned the tunnels. A gentle voice echoed through the air. "Human life form detected. Coordinates locked. Prepare for retrieval." Ella looked up, her small face lit with wonder. Moments later, a transport pod landed near the ruins above. Human soldiers stepped out, wearing heavy exosuits and carrying rifles that hummed with quiet energy. Their commander, a tall woman with short dark hair, looked around with focus and sorrow. "This world has seen too much fire," she said. "Find the signal. No harm to the locals." When they found Ella, one of the soldiers fell to his knees. "Captain," he whispered, his voice breaking. "It's her, the missing child from the Starlight Colony." The captain knelt beside Ella and touched her shoulder gently. "You are safe now," she said softly. "You're going home." But as she looked around the cavern and saw the fallen Valari medic beside the girl, she froze. There were signs of battle, blaster marks, defensive wounds, and still the Valari had died protecting this child. The captain stood. "Bring them both," she said firmly. "The human and the one who saved her." Above, Sareth and his guards saw the human shuttles land near the southern ridge. They approached, unsure of what would happen next. When the humans came forward, they did not draw their weapons. Instead, their commander removed her helmet, letting the toxic air sting her skin. "I am Captain Aria Holt of the United Human Fleet," she said clearly. "Who commands this world?" "I do," said Sareth, stepping forward. His eyes were cold, but his voice carried weight. "You enter our skies without permission." Aria nodded once. "We came because one of yours saved one of ours. A child, we came to bring her home, and to honor the one who protected her." Her soldiers carried Lyra's body between them, covered with a white flag bearing the human emblem. The Valari stared in silence. They did not know what to say. Sareth's expression changed slightly. Confusion, disbelief, and something else he could not name. "She disobeyed orders," he said quietly. "Then her disobedience was the most honorable thing she ever did," Aria replied. For the first time in Valari history, humans and Valari stood side by side. The humans offered food, clean water, and medical aid to the wounded. Their machines repaired damaged reactors. Their engineers worked tirelessly, showing patience the Valari had never seen before. At first, the Valari did not understand. Why would a species so powerful show kindness? One young Valari technician asked a human engineer, "Why do you help us?" The human smiled slightly. "Because you helped one of ours." That's how we survive. Together. Simple words, but they spread quickly. Even the hardened commanders began to feel something unfamiliar. Gratitude. The humans did not demand tribute, control, or surrender. They simply helped. One evening, Sareth walked through the human base built near the ruined ridge. He saw children laughing with Valari workers, soldiers sharing meals with alien civilians, and the sound of music playing softly from a human ship. Music. The Valari had forgotten such things existed. Captain Arya stood beside him, watching the sunset turn the lava fields into rivers of light. "You built this," Sareth said quietly. "In less than a day." "Humans build faster when it matters," Arya replied. "When it's about people." Sareth turned toward her. "Why? You do not even know us." Arya looked up at the burning sky. "One of you risked everything for one child. That means there's hope here, and we protect hope no matter where it lives." Sareth looked away, unable to speak. But peace never lasts long. That same night, human radar detected strange movements at the edge of the system. Massive objects closing fast. The Kraith Dominion was returning, this time with an armada large enough to crush Valora and anything that stood with it. Human command ships lit their engines, forming defensive lines in orbit. The sound of alarms echoed through the entire fleet. "Enemy fleets inbound," said an officer. 74 capital vessels, multiple carriers." Arya's eyes hardened. "Get the civilians underground. Activate all planetary shields. Humanity stands here." Sareth heard the translation through his communicator. The words hit him like thunder. Humanity stands here. He looked toward the stars, where glowing shapes moved closer every second. And for the first time in his life, he felt something powerful. Trust. He turned to his soldiers. "Prepare for battle," he said. "We fight beside them." The humans were no longer strangers. They were allies. The skies of Valora darkened again, but this time, the fire that burned above was not destruction. It was defense. Blue thrusters lit the heavens as human warships took formation. The Valari people watched from below, their hearts trembling with fear and awe. And as the first wave of enemy ships entered the atmosphere, one voice echoed across the command channels, calm, powerful, unshakable. They saved a human child. Now humanity defends their entire civilization. The battle for Valora was about to begin. The storm began with silence. Above the planet Valora, the stars disappeared behind waves of enemy warships. The Kraith Dominion had returned, stronger, darker, hungrier for conquest. Their black ships blocked the light, their formation stretching across the sky like a living shadow. Inside the human flagship Dauntless, Captain Arya Holt stood at the command deck, her face calm but her heart burning. Around her, holograms of war, fleet formations floated in the air, lines of destroyers, carriers, and heavy cruisers locking into defense patterns. "Status?" she asked. "Shields are holding, weapons charged, railguns primed," her second officer replied. "But Captain, their numbers are 4 times ours." Arya's eyes narrowed. "Then we make every shot count." She turned toward the large screen displaying the planet below. The Valari cities glowed faintly through the smoke, like a heartbeat refusing to die. "Signal Commander Sareth," she ordered. "Tell him humanity does not retreat." Down on the surface, Commander Sareth gathered his troops at the eastern wall. He had never seen the sky look like this. It was not just war, it was the end of worlds. But this time, he was not alone. Human soldiers stood beside Valari warriors. Their armor was different, their weapons heavier, but their eyes carried the same resolve. In the center of the field, huge human artillery units hummed, their barrels glowing blue. Sareth looked toward the young human technician connecting cables to a Valari cannon. "Why risk your life for us?" he asked quietly. The technician smiled faintly. "Because one of you once risked hers for a child. Seems fair." Sareth could not answer. For the first time, his logic had no response. The first attack came at dawn. Kraith bombers pierced the upper atmosphere, dropping plasma charges that exploded in violent flashes. Human fighters rose to meet them, twisting through the smoke like silver birds. The sky became a storm of fire. From orbit, the Dauntless fired its railgun. The blast cut through space like lightning, shattering one enemy cruiser instantly. The Valari soldiers below looked up in awe. The humans' power was like nothing they had ever imagined. "Direct hit," reported the gunner. Arya's voice stayed calm. "Keep firing. We hold the line." But then the enemy adapted. Massive, Kraith dreadnoughts descended lower, breaking formation to focus on the planet itself. Their goal was clear: to destroy the Valari capital and erase everything. "Captain," said the officer urgently, "they're targeting the surface." "Then we block them," Arya replied. "All ships, interlock shields. Form a barrier around Valora." One by one, the human ships moved into position, creating a shining wall of energy around the planet. Every strike from the enemy fleet hit that wall and scattered into light. Below, the Valari saw the humans' ships glowing in the clouds, holding the line between life and extinction. It looked like an army of stars protecting them. On the ground, Sareth's defense line was breaking. The Kraith infantry, massive creatures with dark armor and burning eyes, pushed forward. Valari soldiers fell one by one. Sareth drew his plasma blade and charged, cutting through the smoke. At his side fought a human sergeant named Kane. The two fought back to back, covering each other as waves of enemies closed in. Sareth shouted, "We are surrounded." Kane grinned beneath his helmet. "Good. Saves us the trouble of aiming." They fought until their armor burned and their weapons overheated. When one of the Kraith struck Kane down, Sareth pulled him to safety and kept fighting, something no Valari would have done before. Compassion had become stronger than protocol. In orbit, the Dauntless took heavy fire. Energy bolts tore across its hull. The control room shook violently. "Captain, hull breach on decks 7 through 9. "Evacuate those sections," Arya ordered. "Keep all weapons online." "Ma'am, we cannot hold much longer." Arya looked out through the glass. "Then we hold just enough." She opened a fleet-wide channel. Her voice carried through every ship, every suit, every helmet. They saved a single human child when no one else would. Today, we return that kindness 1,000-fold. We stand for them. We fight for them. Humanity protects its own, and those who protect us. The crew erupted in cheers. Fear turned to strength. Even on the surface, soldiers heard her words through their comms. The Valari looked up as the sky burned blue with human courage. The battle reached its peak. Kraith ships fell one after another under human fire. Valari artillery joined the counterattack using coordinates shared by human AI systems. Together, their weapons became one rhythm, two species fighting as one heartbeat. Then the largest Kraith dreadnought, the Harrow, broke through. It descended directly over the capital, its weapons glowing red-hot. Its next shot could destroy the planet's core. Aria's officers shouted, "We cannot stop it, Captain. We need more power." She stared at the tactical map, then at the burning hull of her ship. Her decision was instant. "Divert all remaining energy to the main cannon," she said. "That will overload the core." "I know." The bridge fell silent. Arya placed her hand on the console. "This ship has done its duty. Let it finish strong." The Dauntless tilted toward the dreadnought. Its engines flared bright white, and the railgun charged one last time. The blast tore through the sky, cutting the enemy ship clean in half. The explosion was brighter than the sun. The Dauntless began to fall, flames surrounding it like a burning comet. From below, Sareth and his soldiers watched in silence as the ship descended slowly, crashing into the mountains beyond the city. The ground shook. The fire dimmed. And then, silence again. The battle was over. The Kraith fleet retreated into the dark, broken and defeated. The human and Valari forces stood among the ruins, covered in dust and ash, but alive. Sareth walked toward the crash site. In the distance, he could see the wreck of the Dauntless, half buried in stone. The human flag still waved in the hot wind. He whispered softly, "They saved us." And for the first time in Valari history, he bowed his head, not in shame, but in honor. The smoke over Valora finally began to fade. The sky turned from red to gray, and the sound of battle became a memory carried by the wind. All across the ruined plains, humans and Valari worked side by side. Machines hummed softly as they cleared debris, repaired homes, and built new shelters. The war was over, but the scars of fire still glowed in the earth. Commander Sareth stood near the mountains where the Dauntless had fallen. The ship lay half buried in stone, its once shining hull scorched black, but its flag still fluttered in the wind. It was the symbol of something new: sacrifice, unity, and the price of peace. The Valari had built a small memorial near the crash site. It was simple: a piece of the Dauntless's hull standing upright, with one sentence carved into it in both languages. They came not to conquer, but to protect. Inside the human medical camp, Ella, the once lost child, sat beside a window, holding a small flower she had found among the ruins. She was older now, quiet but strong. She wore a necklace with the insignia of the Dauntless around her neck. A Valari nurse approached and smiled gently. "You miss them," she said softly. Ella nodded. "They were my family," she whispered. "They saved me, and her." The nurse understood she meant Lyra, the Valari medic who had died protecting her. "She lives through you," the nurse said, "through what you will become." Outside, Valari children watched human engineers rebuild their schools with strange, glowing tools. For the first time in Valora's history, laughter filled the streets again. Weeks passed. The first joint meeting between Human Command and the Valari Council took place in the rebuilt city dome. The hall was quiet as representatives from both species gathered around a long crystal table. Sareth stood across from Admiral Corrin, who had replaced Captain Arya after her death. The Admiral was older, with gray hair and a calm voice that carried the weight of the entire fleet. "The Council has decided," said Sareth slowly. "We cannot repay what your people have done for us." The Admiral smiled faintly. "You already have, Commander. You reminded us what humanity is supposed to stand for." Sareth tilted his head slightly, confused. "And what is that?" The Admiral looked out through the glass wall where both races worked together. "For centuries, we humans thought strength came from fear. But now we know it comes from compassion. You showed us that when you saved one of ours." The Valari Council members nodded in silent agreement. Their cold logic had softened. The fire of empathy had entered their hearts, and it was something they would never lose again. That night, the stars over Valora looked brighter. Human ships floated quietly in orbit, their lights like constellations reborn. On the ground, Valari and humans held a joint ceremony in the open plains. A large monument rose there, a silver spire made from fragments of both Valari metal and human steel. On it was written, "She saved a child. They saved a world." Ella stood before the monument holding a small candle. Her voice was soft, but every soldier, worker, and child heard her. "She gave her life for me," she said, "and because of her, no one here is alone anymore. We are one family now." Sareth stood behind her, his hands folded in silence. His silver armor reflected the candlelight like a mirror. When the crowd began to hum softly, a sound like a prayer, he whispered to himself, "This is what peace sounds like." As the days turned into months, Valora changed. The once gray cities grew with new color. Human gardens bloomed in alien soil. The Valari learned music, laughter, and art. Humanity taught them emotion, and the Valari taught humanity patience and balance. Together they built something greater than either could alone. A joint defense fleet was formed, the Guardian Alliance, where Valari navigators and human pilots shared command. Their mission was simple: to protect every world that could not protect itself. From the shipyards orbiting Valora came a new class of vessel, the Lyra's Light, named after the medic who had started it all. Its symbol was a child's drawing of two hands holding each other. The same one Ella had once made with ashes and metal. It became the flag of the new alliance. Years later, when new travelers passed through the Valari system, they no longer found a silent, cold world. They found a living one, glowing with cities of blue light, watched over by human and Valari fleets that guarded the skies together. In the great archives of the Alliance, there was a short message preserved for eternity, Captain Arya Holt's final broadcast before the Dauntless fell. "They saved one of ours. Humanity does not forget." Every Valari child learned those words. Every human remembered them. And when the stars grew dark again, both knew they would fight side by side, because compassion had no species. At the top of the highest mountain, near the crash site, a small memorial garden bloomed where no life had grown before. Ella often visited it alone. She would kneel by the names carved into the stone, Lyra's, Aria's, and hundreds of others, and whisper quietly, "Thank you." Sometimes, when the wind moved through the flowers, it sounded almost like voices, soft, distant, but full of peace. She looked to the horizon where ships glided through the sky, leaving trails of blue light. "They protected me once," she said softly. "Now we protect everyone." Her reflection shone faintly on the monument's surface, half human, half Valari light. And as night fell over the reborn world, the stars seemed closer than ever. Humanity and Valari, two once broken peoples, now stood as one, guardians of each other. Guardians of hope. They saved a human child. Now humanity guards their whole world, forever.